Hello! You caught me in the middle of doing my vocal warm-ups. Just kidding, I pushed the record button myself, so I know exactly that I was doing that just to be silly. Hello and welcome to episode 23 of Chris's Creative Corner of the first season. Oh my goodness, we are getting so close to the end of this first season, and I have exciting news. I have lined up the persons that I'm going to be talking to about Porchlight. And I'm really excited. My friend Elise is a doctor and a professor, and she teaches English. And read the book and listened to the book. And actually, it was really funny. In the audiobook, I edited the audiobook myself. And in one of the parts, excuse me, in one of the parts, it was like a really serious part, and someone was saying something serious, and then I burped and then continued on. And Elise was like, Did you put that burp in there on purpose? And I was like, No. And so I went in and edited it really fast and had to resubmit it. And it took like 30 days. And I have no idea like if anybody else heard quote unquote the burp. So that'll be interesting to find out for sure. And then I was like, maybe I should make that my trademark. Like, just where's the burp, the hidden burp? When you hear the burp, send me a message, or I don't know. Anyway, I'm a gassy person, mouth wise. I fart a good ton, but they're usually silent, whereas my burps are potent and powerful. And anyway, I have two questions that I'm going to talk about in today's Questions for Chris. I had two questions. One of them was asked via Twitter, and the other was asked via YouTube, of all places. What? I know. I didn't think that I would get a YouTube question, but I did. And the YouTube question is asking specifically about the, bracelets that I have on my wrists. And I was like, oh yeah, I can totally talk about those. So sometimes I wear them, sometimes I don't. Usually a lot of times I just wear them and then forget that I'm wearing them. But I specifically, because they're kind of radical, I have to take them off, like when doing things like job interviews or meeting with clients, because I want to make sure that I'm not like, expressing too many of my personal opinions to the point that I'm like swaying them or making them feel uncomfortable. So the one on my right wrist, I have two, and I have one is one of those rubber bracelet things, and it says Black Lives Matter. And yes, they do. And you know what? If all lives did matter, we wouldn't need people saying Black Lives Matter. So your argument about all lives matter is invalid. The end. On my left wrist, I have three bracelets. They're the rubber bracelets, and they all say chriscolebooks.com, which is my website. And I think that is the first time in 23 episodes that I've mentioned the fact that I have a website. Oh, that's fun. I'm so good at marketing. chriscolebooks.com, and I have three different colors. So I have blue and yellow, and the blue and yellow are together to represent my support for Ukraine. Specifically because I'm sick of the bullshit that's happening with dictators, dictators, and the general idea that they can be like, oh, well, we own you, you're our property, you're our land, like you can't be a sovereign nation, we get to decide your lives for you. Literally, go fuck yourself, Vladimir Putin. I'm sure he would enjoy that, actually. He seems to find himself quite attractive. Anyway, not that I have strong opinions about political and things. And then the third wristband that I have is a multicolored, it's the rainbow colors, and it also says Chris Cole Books on it. But I'm wearing it for the rainbow colors because gay. Me gay. Me wear gay things and do gay stuff and write gay books. So that's why I'm wearing those. So those are the wristbands that I wear. Sometimes I will wear more. And I'm trying to remember what they say. I have a collection. One of them is from my good writer friend Maggie, and so I'll wear her wristband as well, especially when I go out to writing events. And what does the other one say? I think it says choice determines destiny, and it has some inspirational quotes on it. And it's from when I was like in high school, and the idea behind it was that you make your own choices and then you get, to determine what your future is. And I think we've realized now that that's a bunch of hogwash and bullshit. You can choose within the path that you're set in, and you can always work really hard to overcome the obstacles that you're faced with. But the simple fact is that, like, I will never be a billionaire, because I was not born into a family who was ultra rich, and that's just how it is. So the idea that if I wanted to be a billionaire or even a millionaire, it's so unlikely, so unlikely. And if it were ever to be a thing, I have no idea what I would do. Like the overabundance of $1 million, like, is just unfathomable to me. Even like just having 1 million, I don't know what I would do. I have no idea. There's so many things that I could do, but you know what? The other thing is that it could also be eaten up really fast because my parents have a house to build. I would want to buy a house. I'd want to pay off my student loans and Trent's student loans and all of our debt and everything and have that settled and done. And we'd probably be left with like maybe $200,000. Maybe. Maybe. $1 million in the grand scheme of like debt and stuff and home ownership and things like that is not that much. Not that much money. And it's crazy to me that people are still like, oh, well, minimum wage, all these high school workers, $7.25. Yeah, shut up. Seriously. There are so many people who are not high school students working for minimum wage, and you can go ahead and tell them all you want to get a better job, and then you can go and complain when they do get a better job, and they're like try to better their lives, and you're like, well, why are all my fast food restaurants so understaffed? It's because you told them to go get better jobs, and they did. Anyway, I totally went off on a random tangent, and I'm sorry. Let me go on to the next question. Instead of just continuing to use this podcast for all of my political ideologies, because we're here to talk about books. But I'm also a person, and I'm not sorry. Um, this question is, what's the best way to market your books? And the answer is probably not the way that I've been doing it just now in this episode. It's probably not the most ideal thing to be all like, here are all my personal opinions, because we've seen how that happens with some authors. At the same time, I'm not worried about being a big and famous author. I'm specifically thinking of J.K. Rowling and her anti-trans stances. She can go ahead and say that she is pro-woman all she wants, but she is anti-trans and anti-trans women. And since trans women are women, she is anti-specific women, which is not feminism. So she's not a TERF. And if you don't know what TERF is, it's a trans exclusionary radical feminist. And I refuse to call her a feminist because feminism is beautiful and inclusive and loving. And that is not feminism what she is doing and what people who follow her are doing. So I just call her a Tara, a trans exclusionary radical asshole. So there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, marketing my books. Marketing my books and is really hard. This is part of my marketing because obviously we're going through my books and reading them. And I also have them available in print and on ebook and through all these other channels. And sometimes there are sales, and I have the social media to market my books as well. And it's all like kind of overwhelming. Like it's basically a full-time job trying to make sure that I stay relevant and people know that I still exist and can buy my books. It's hard. I would love to not market my books, but at the same time, if I want to sell any books or have anybody read my books, other than people I know, I probably need to do this marketing. And so here we are. I feel like the best way to market your stuff is to have lots of money, and I don't have any. So, yeah, the best way to market is through having lots of money, and I don't have that. So I'm doing what I can with my time. Um, and, in a way, they say time is money, and I used to disagree. But people who have lots of time, I feel like probably have lots of money as well. Because they don't have to worry about doing all the things to try and keep up with life. They can afford the niceties of, hiring someone to like clean their home or do whatever, this or that. So, yeah, I'm going to stop going on political rants now. I've been ranting for a good 10 minutes or so, and I think that we can probably move on to book stuff. Because that's what we're here for. Apologies if I ranted for too long. Not my intention, but we'll get into books now. No, I'm not sorry. I'm okay. I'm not quite done ranting. The idea that I'm sitting here ranting and talking about politics and political things and human rights are not political. They've been made political by people who decide who deserves human rights. And the answer is everyone deserves human rights because everyone is human. Every person who is a human is a human. And I know that sounds redundant, but it seems like it needs to be said. And so the idea that I'm sitting here talking about all of these really controversial issues are because they affect people like Nick and like Casey and the people in my books. And they affect people like me, and they affect people like my readers, and they affect my friends and my family, and all of those things. So the fact of the matter is that no, I'm not sorry for trying to be an advocate for the things that are specifically affecting people um, and the characters that I write about. Because the characters that I write about, while they may exist in a fake city of King, Idaho, there are people like them who really do exist. And they live in this world, and they need help. And so part of why I want to help people and advocate for them um, is through writing, but also doing other advocacy work like working with nonprofits and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Whew. Okay, I have ranted for one more minute now, and I think I'm good now. We can move on. We can move on now. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. We are now in chapter 23. Previously, Casey initiated a sexual encounter with Nick and is really kind of distraught about it, apparently. We're trying to figure out what the heck is going on with Casey. They're at Thanksgiving, and then they go back to Casey's house, and Casey obviously has been drinking and is under the influence. And yeah, Casey initiates a sexual encounter. So we're going to see how Casey's doing. We need to check in with him. Is he okay? What does he need? And we're going to continue talking about that with the next chapter. Chapter 23, The Right Gift. 2 days later, we went back to recording, and Christmas was around the corner. Casey and I had been speaking less and spending less time together since the night before Thanksgiving, and he had taken to drinking more as well as popping more pills than ever before. I didn't even know what he was taking, but it made him act like he was in a fog. We could barely understand him when he spoke. A week before Christmas, we were back in the hotel room after a long day. Casey was passed out on the couch, snoring lightly, his flask in his hand. Levi and I were watching TV while Kennedy was on her laptop, earbuds in and tuned out from the world. He's an alcoholic. I turned to Levi, surprised. Well, I guess I know that. No, there's no guessing. He's addicted to alcohol, and he's probably addicted to pills now, too. I didn't say anything. We let this happen, Nick. This is on us. We're his friends, and we didn't stop this. I ran my hand along my forehead and didn't say anything. If we don't get him help soon, He's going to die. He's going to overdose and die. And it's going to be our fault. We can't make him do anything he doesn't want to do, Levi. And we can't take the blame when someone chooses destructive behaviors. Levi shifted in his seat to look me head on. Nick, I know how much you care about him, and I know how much he cares about you. I really think he's struggling with some issues and needs counseling, but he's turning to substances instead of coping, and we can't let that happen. We need to say something and acknowledge his behavior. You saw what happened when Kennedy said he was drinking too much, and I tried to talk to him about it before, but he deflected, said he was just a social drinker. Levi shook his head. It's obviously progressed beyond that. I mean, I remember in high school when he used to get drunk at parties. He's been drinking for at least 10 years. Who knows how long he's been drinking too much on a daily basis? I felt ashamed. I hadn't wanted to address it because I was scared of what might happen. I looked at Casey. His shirt had slightly bunched up as he lay there. His cheeks looked hollow. He just looked unhealthy. I don't know what to do, and I'm scared we're going to drive him away if we say anything. It would probably be best coming from you, Nick. You've been best friends for how long? He trusts you. I shook my head. Not as much as he used to. If anything, I feel like it would mean more coming from you. You're so quiet all the time, Levi. If you told him how you felt and what you saw, I think that would make a big difference for him. He sighed and frowned, looking over at Casey. Okay, I'll try it. Maybe over the Christmas break we're getting. I inhaled sharply. He drank a lot with his family. I know alcoholism tends to run in families, and I think it does in his. I guess I should probably tell you Omar talked with Kennedy and me over Thanksgiving. My eyebrows creased. What, about Casey? He nodded. He knows you two are best friends, so he doesn't think you can deal with the issue of keeping Casey in the band. But Omar's getting really serious. He said he's holding the recordings back, making us work harder, and he said Casey's holding us back as a band. He wants to bring in someone else, but he's giving us a chance to talk to Casey first. I whistled softly. Well, shit. I turned back to the TV, watching the screen without seeing what was going on. We made a plan for a few days later. We asked Omar for the day just to see how things would go, and we decided we would do it in the morning so Casey wouldn't have a chance to be drunk when we talked. Kennedy agreed with me that Levi should be the one to lead the conversation. She agreed something needed to be done, but we should try and take care of it as friends first. The morning of, we were all sitting down with our room service breakfast when Casey walked out of the bedroom, bleary-eyed and yawning. It's late. I thought we had to be to the studio by 9. We took the day off. Spend the day as a band. You know, just as friends. I nodded at Levi. I liked that he had said friends instead of band, because we were friends first, and I wanted Casey to remember that. Sweet. What's for breakfast? Load up, Case. We watched as he loaded up a plate and poured himself a glass of orange juice. He pulled out his flask when Levi spoke up. Hey, could you hold off spiking your juice for a second? I had a question for you. Casey put his flask away, eyebrows raised. Sure, I guess. What's the question? Oh, is it about Christmas gifts? I wear a size 7-day Bahamas cruise. We all laughed, but it died down as we saw him reach in his pocket for a couple loose pills. Can you hold off on those too? I was hoping we could all be really clear right now. Good, Levi, good. It's about us, not about him. He rolled his eyes. I feel like I know where this is going. Maybe you do, but that doesn't mean we don't need to talk. Just as friends right now. Casey looked at me, taking a sip of his juice before speaking. Did you put him up to this, Nick? Actually, it was all of us who wanted to talk, Kennedy said. We've been seeing some things we're worried about. What things? Levi gestured to his hand, which still held the pills. That, and lots of drinking. Oh man, I just like to have fun. That stuff keeps me going. It may feel good for you, Casey, but we're seeing some effects that aren't good. Casey frowned. Like what? Like when we're all playing through a song? A lot of the time you stop playing, or you're not playing the right stuff. You're a really good bass player, so it seems like the pills and the drinks are affecting your ability to play well. Come on, I'm the bassist. I'm allowed room for freestyling and trying new things. Do those new things include multiple recordings for a single line? I gave Kennedy a warning look. We just mean you're normally on top of your game, but with this stuff you're not, and we're worried about you. I'm fine. He took a sip of his juice again and sat back, grabbing a piece of bacon off his plate. No need to worry. I'm good. Except the pills and the alcohol, Casey. Like I said, that's just for fun. Levi looked at me. I wasn't sure where to go from here either. Casey, it may seem fun, but it's causing you problems. I don't feel like I have any problems. I have a house and good friends, and I play in a band, and I'm kind of famous now. Life seems good to me. I think you all just need to relax. This isn't a joke, Casey. Kennedy's voice was sharp, but she softened as we both gave her a look. We're serious. You're not yourself, and it's affecting us all. He glared at the three of us. I'm so sorry if my having fun is affecting you tight asses. Levi held up his hands in a calming gesture. We aren't trying to say anything bad about you, Casey. You're a really good guy, and we love you, but this path you're going down isn't good for you. How do you know what's good for me? You're not me, and you're sure as hell not my parents. No, we're your friends. I leaned forward, trying to look unassuming. We've been friends a long time, Casey, and I've never seen you like this. Drinking is one thing, drugs too. But I can see you doing them together, and it scares me. That's not my problem. Kennedy let out a heavy sigh. Yes, it is, since you're messing up our recordings, Casey. He glared at her. With all the technology they have these days, they can fix whatever mistakes I make. I'm sorry I'm so inadequate. Again, nobody's making judgments about you, Casey. Well, it sure as hell feels like it. We're trying to save your spot in the band. Kennedy slammed her hand on the arm of the chair. Omar wants you to get control of yourself, or we're going to have to find someone sober. It was silent as Casey absorbed this news. Finally, he spoke. Omar's never liked me. Not from the beginning. He just wants me out because he doesn't like me. Casey, if it's his decision, don't you think we should follow what he says? He stood up, his chair sliding backward into the wall. Who the fuck is he to tell me how to live my life? I do what I want to do, and nobody can tell me otherwise. And that's fine, Casey. We don't want to hold you back, but these drugs are. I stood, holding my hands together. Casey, if you don't get things under control, I'm afraid we're going to lose you. He stared at me for a moment, angry. So this is an ultimatum? Stop the drinking and drugs or we'll kick you out? Kennedy and I looked at Levi, who sat there with his hands resting gently on the armrests. He spoke with a soft voice, but his eyes never left Casey's. Yes. If you can't get this together, we're going to have to replace you. His jaw was set as he looked at us. Finally, he looked at his feet. I don't want to leave the band. We don't want you to leave either. Kennedy wiped a tear from her eye, and so did I. We love you, Casey. You're such a great guy. We don't want to lose you. He folded his arms over his chest. So if I can get through rehearsals and stuff without any issues, I can stay? I didn't like the qualifying statement. If he was fine in rehearsals, it meant he didn't need to be fine out of them. I looked at Levi, who shrugged. I turned back to Casey. I guess, if that's what you want to do right now, yes. But the drinking and drugs have been an issue in other places too. I'm done with this. He grabbed the flask from the table and put it in his pocket. I'll be fine for rehearsals, but what I do on my time is for me to decide. Nobody gets to tell me what to do with my life. No one can tell me who to be. He started to walk away, but I called out to him. What, Nick? Casey, just please think about this. The only thing we want you to be is alive and happy, okay? With the drugs, you don't seem like you are. Maybe you should see someone? Maybe we could all go see someone. He laughed. Therapy? Yeah, right. That's not what I want for Christmas. Sorry, Nick. That's the wrong gift. All right, things are coming to a head. Things are going to be happening. I'm just warning you now, the next episode's going to be a tough one. So if you decide to listen to it, make sure that you might be alone, or you might, be in a safe space, that kind of thing. I just want to make sure you're taken care of, you're okay. Yeah, so the next episode is chapter 24, and things get into a more serious situation. So I want you to be prepared for that as we're going through Porch Light. Remember, this is a romance, and I want to make sure to point out that this is a romance and that these are real issues that queer people deal with. I want to make sure that you all know, I'm going to post the link for this in the description and everything as well, but there's several places you can go to for help if you're experiencing issues with any kind of drug abuse. So one of the places I recommend is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. I think that's a really good place to go. Their number is 1-800-662-4357, and you can always go online as well. There's also the United Recovery Project. Health and Welfare in Idaho has some amazing resources. There's other places. There's drug abuse rehabilitation. There's a crisis hotline at 1-877-469-4783. Again, I'll post all of these in the description and everything as well. There's more as well. I'll make sure to provide links, and a quick Google search will look that up as well. So if you're struggling like Casey is, I want you to know that you're not alone. And I want to make sure I'll be talking a little more about this in the next episode as well. But I want to make sure that you know that substance abuse is serious, and it can affect you for the rest of your life. And it can affect the people around you and your children, nieces, nephews, friends, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that you know you're not alone, and that there are places you can go to get the help that you need. And those will be in the description. That is all for this episode of Chris's Creative Corner. Sorry the topic is kind of heavy, but it's getting to the point where things get to the big part. And then from there, we get to see, we get to experience some closure and some resolution. So next episode is going to be hard, and then we start getting more resolution from there, okay? So I just want you to be prepared, be aware. We're getting into some heavy topics. So thank you again for joining me for Chris's Creative Corner. I appreciate all of your love and support. And if you have any questions, if you need anything, feel free to reach out. If I don't have the answer, I will try to get you connected to a resource where they do have the answer. Thank you again, and I look forward to catching up with you next time.